All right, well, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from today. My name is Lisa Ting Lau. I am the current president of FYLPRO, Filipino Young Leaders Program. Thank you for joining us and finding out more about our signature immersion program that is back this year after a 2-year hiatus. So I'm super excited to tell you a little bit more about it, and hopefully by the end of this info session, you will be encouraged to apply. And we are here as your resource to answer any questions, any and all questions about this life-changing program for a lot of us. So you'll hear in the next hour or so just a lot of those details that will come out. So I have a short, quick presentation. Yeah, let's see. Okay, hold on. Let me share my screen. All right. Can I get a thumbs up? Can everyone see this? I know it's still loading. Are we good? I can't see, or someone please say, okay, thank you. All right, so Filipino Young Leaders Program, we just celebrated our 10th anniversary actually last month, started in 2012. And yeah, in a decade, we've this organization has evolved a lot. So you'll see in the next couple of slides here. Just to reset and recenter for the folks that are not familiar with the program, this is our mission statement. FYLPRO is a network of high-performing next-generation leaders who advance the Philippines and the Filipino people through their advocacy, expertise, and in various industries. We continue to expand the pipeline of Filipino young leaders in the diaspora. By connecting them to the motherland, we foster collaboration, multinational relationships that create innovations and support the socio-economic progress of the global Filipino community. I know that was a lot, but you'll find out as you get more information about this program, what an incredible network and multidisciplinary network FYLPRO is. Just another quick introduction. I am this year's president, and I was part of the last batch that went in 2019. So we've been, the internal joke, we've been the longest batch here. So we are super excited to welcome the next cohort that we will be selecting this coming year. And then just a quick introduction to the rest of the board. This is the 2022 board, which what is new about this is starting from last year, we have non-alumni that are officially part of the board. So I would also encourage you beyond the immersion program to also reach out and get involved with all the other activities that FYLPRO does on a yearly throughout the year. And then just quick other things, I just want to make sure just some of the other initiatives that FYLPRO has done the last couple of years, especially in light of the pandemic. We also launched a virtual help desk, one of the many initiatives that have come out of this program, in addition to alumni's legacy projects, as well as launching a mentorship program last year with USAI. So we've been doing a lot of things in addition to the immersion program. So that is just a quick overview of what FYLPRO has been doing. We can go into depth in the Q&A, but just wanted to kind of give just a baseline in terms of some of the great things that we've been doing since being in existence for 10 years. And just to also back up with in terms of the history of FYLPRO, it was started in 2012 from a project from former ambassador Jose Quisha, along with his wife, to basically foster and expand that pipeline of young leaders and bringing them back to the Philippines. Yeah, and then so since then, every year 10 to 15 young delegates selected from different industries go back for a week-long immersion program. And in the last couple of years, it's taken place in November. And that is the aim for this year's program as well. And as we announced in our 10th anniversary last month, we are restarting it, and we'll go into the details, but just a quick, deadline is coming up in September, that first week. So we'll give you some tips and tricks in terms of making sure you have a very strong application. Yeah, so I'll play a quick little sizzle. This is from my year. And yeah, hope you enjoy. So hopefully that gives you a quick taste of kind of fast pace, a lot of activities packed into a week, but a lifetime of just, really strong connections and relationships that have come out of this. So go to the next slide. I know we have a couple alumni that are currently on this call. So obviously a video can only tell so much of what it's like, what this program is about, but I would love to hand over the floor to a few, especially the ones that were in the last batch. So is Earl on? Earl Valencia on?
I'm here. I'm there, kind of pointing, not looking at the camera, pointing to the camera.
Okay. Let me stop sharing. Would you be able to talk about your experience?
Of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Earl Valencia. I'm based in Westport, Connecticut, so an hour north of New York City. And right now, actually, I'm a fintech entrepreneur. Before FYLPRO, I was in the financial sector as managing director at Charles Schwab, which is in San Francisco, investment house. And we were there in FYLPRO again November. What was that, Lizelle? Like probably 2-3 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2019.
Just before the pandemic. And actually that trip kind of jump started this journey of mine, which is to build basically a fintech for the Philippines. So right now what we're doing is we're building a company that gives access to credit for Filipinos who don't have credit cards. What we discovered in the Philippines when we were there is about 2% of people only have access to credit cards and 98% do not. So what we thought was to kind of bring in some technology to kind of close that gap. I'm actually partnered with another FYLPRO alum, Kevin Gabayan, who left his job at Google to kind of build this kind of with me together. And one thing that I really liked about the FYLPRO experience is that, it's multifaceted, right? Like one time you're talking to a, government official, presidential, and then the next one you'll, giving a talk with the Makati Business Club, which is like the, CEOs and leaders of the business side. But then you contrast that, let's say, with when we went to, a village of indigenous people in Pampanga, and one thing you realize very quickly is that the Philippines is a tale of two truths, right? That you have progress in one side, and the other side where you want them to also catch up. So it was very life changing because you're coming from America, coming from Connecticut or San Francisco, where I was at the time. You really see that there's a lot to be done, and at least from an emotional perspective, you feel that as a Filipino or Filipino American, there's a little bit of maybe responsibility that you want to at least be part of. And I think this FYLPRO experience, especially with the others, right? The other people selected, amazing people, amazing men and women that actually believe in the same way that you could use your talents, your networks to hopefully bring change to both the US and also the Philippines. So pretty exciting, and thank you so much. It was a life-changing experience, and actually the fruits of the FYLPRO experience is tried and true right now while we're building actually a startup cross-border between the US and the Philippines right now.
Yes, thank you, Earl. I know Kuya Serge and Kuya Fred also was part of my batch, are also on. I don't know if one of you or both of you want to share some quick experiences or thoughts.
I'll go ahead. My name's Fred Doc Dossel. I'm here in Carson, California, and Los Angeles County. And yes, definitely to piggyback on what Earl mentioned, it was a very transformative experience. I was actually born and raised in the Philippines, so my experience was slightly different from most of the rest of my cohort. However, I had moved here when I was 18, and when we went in 2019, it had been 8 years since I've been back to the Philippines. So I was seeing, much of that trip with fresh eyes, and certainly, having the opportunity to share it with my cohort. Everybody, obviously, amazing leaders in their own right. But I was the resident Kuya, along with Sergio and Earl. We were the batch. The good news for this year is, although we technically we lost 2 years due to COVID, we actually were able to bump up the age a little bit. So for this year, it is up to 45. Now, when we went, again, it's essentially it's the slice of the Philippines. You basically went from cultural arts and culture day. You had a business day, government, and then the cultural immersion was amazing. It's definitely not the typical trip wherein for the most part you're kind of focused doing one thing. And again, having the opportunity to share that experience with your cohort, and then essentially completing that trip, and becoming a part of the FYLPRO family, of all these other, I don't even want to call it next generation leaders anymore. We're doing our thing now, right? We're here. So in my case, I'm coming from finance. I'm proud to represent one of the very first full service financial institutions serving specifically the Filipino American community. So that's definitely something that, as a delegate, you're asked to have a legacy project. And in my specific case, because of the industry that I'm in, mine was financial literacy for our community here. And that trip definitely, rekindled the flame that's already been within all of us. But I can specifically speak for myself when I say that, again, was very transformative experience. And it was just a fantastic opportunity to reconnect that relationship with, the motherland, and really, spur us to do what we can to continue to bridge our communities here in the States as well as in the Philippines. So I strongly encourage everybody who's qualified here on the call to go ahead and apply.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Kuya Serge, I don't know if you're in a position to share.
Of course. Thanks, Lizelle. Yeah, as one of the OGs, I've got to say something with Kuya Fred. We're the two of us. Again, my name is Sergio Alquibilla. I am from calling here from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm a public interest attorney, and just very fortunate to have been part of the last batch. And yeah, it's just I'm one of those that just really in awe of everyone that's on this call, and just just the breadth of the different industries that everyone's in. So for me, I actually applied for FYLPRO. This was my third time applying. It's so easy to get discouraged and think you're not qualified. But I just encourage, if anyone is on this call that's applied before, just reapply again and keep going. I think for me, as my experience, it really is, as Fred was saying, it is pretty transformative. As you can tell, I'm now running for public office here in Hawaii. And I think I would not be doing that if not for my FYLPRO experience. You know, people have asked me before to run for office, and I just really never had the courage to do it. But after just seeing, you know, just going back to the Philippines and just seeing, as Earl had mentioned, just the disparity and just the sense of responsibility that we have here as Filipino Americans, to really make the most out of the opportunities that we've been given here, all the sacrifices that you know, those that came before us, our families and our parents working 2 or 3 jobs, for us to be in this space now, right, as one of the top leaders in your community. So I'm really grateful for that. And just seeing, you know, I think people I think it was that group, and we went to our that experience with that AETA community, and just seeing, you know, really that we do have a special responsibility here, right? So many people in the Philippines would love to trade places with us, and just make the most of the opportunity that we have. And I think with that, it's what gave me the courage to really step forward. And when our you know, Filipino community here in Hawaii asked me to run for Congress, I stepped up, you know, because of my FYLPRO experience, and I really credit it to that. And again, I just encourage everyone to apply. You know, even if you don't get in this time, continue to stay involved with FYLPRO, just because it's really open to everyone, and it's really about the community. It's really about being part of this network to be able to give back to the community. And with that, just, yeah, so grateful to be in this space. And Lizelle, thank you for all of your leadership, and just looking forward to seeing the next batch. And you guys just keep doing all the great work in your community.
Thank you. I love that all 3 Kuyas are on. They're all here. Thank you for supporting. I love it. I was like, okay, it can't be just me for batch 8. So looking forward to helping usher in batch 9, so we can pass it off. But I also want to acknowledge the other alumni that are also on the call. I don't know if you guys want to share. We also have from, let's see, batch 5, right? Chris, Mark, Dondi. And then we have VP, JP Ferrer. Who else? Am I missing any other alumni out there? I don't know if any of you want to share your experience before we go into the lovely details of our application.
I can say a few words.
Okay, there you go. Go for it, Dondi.
Okay. Hi guys, my name is Dondi Quintans. I am 2016 cohort, and I was also an executive board member, president in 2018. The Kuyas and Lizelle definitely shared the experiences during the Immersion program, but I actually want to highlight the things after the application and after you being part, if should you make it. One of the things that we want to really point out is that everyone who's even interested in this, and those who are not even on this call, are equipped to be good leaders and amazing leaders for the Filipino community and just in general. So FYLPRO will be there, but know that FYLPRO is also a resource and friends and a circle that you can be part of, because that's what we do. And we are a fraternity of leaders and experts in our fields, and that we'd be happy to help you and help the Filipino community, Philam community, expand their projects and expand their dreams and further strengthen relationships between our 2 countries. My personal experience for that week-long project, immersion program, was, it's hard to actually explain. My coming in, I really thought about I had a quite lengthy and robust legacy project, and I'll be as transparent as possible. Mine never came into fruition, but however, I made it a point, because I realized when I went to the Philippines that my role as a person, my personal and professional development, was really, I used this opportunity as a springboard to better that. I ended up really was so motivated and so determined to help lead FYLPRO and to be part of the committees and the team that would help bring it to where it is today. And so I'll always think about those opportunities that can come out in the relationships that you build, even from this call down to the application process, to the meetings that you might have with your community leaders, and even your local consulate posts, and use that use those relationships for your own personal projects, for your own professional passions and developments, and it will definitely help down the line. We've had some, and I prefer not to tell everyone that you apply, but you really, there's only 15 people out of hundreds that are going to apply. So, but really it's like apply. And since, because you have the opportunity to still meet people, and who knows, after, I think that we have some friends here who applied more than 3 times and actually got in. And that's just a testament of how good they are in the community and how present they are in the community, and how they know that in good time and in due time, anyone and everyone gets a chance to really express themselves and their projects. And if you really do continue to work on your projects and work on yourself, FYLPRO will be there to support you in any way possible. And so I do encourage. One fun thing that happened to me actually wasn't that I wanted to share. It's a little bit of our comic relief. FYLPRO doesn't stand for Filipino Young Leaders Program. It's called Feed the Leaders something, because all you do is eat when you get to the Philippines. So if you get in, you're probably going to gain about 10 pounds in the 10 days that you're there. And then, so by the time I came back as a president with the 2018 batch, we were at the Manila Hotel. Is anyone here from 2018? But this is a true story, guys. I was eating lunch in front of all of our partners and dignitaries, and my seat breaks as I chew on and I say bite into chicharon, lechon kawali. So that says a lot about how much we can eat and how much you can take in, and it just kind of, in a sense, weighs you down. So I'll never forget that opportunity, that time when we get to eat and like be around some great people to help us in our futures and in our present projects. And I hope that we are good to, I hope that you all know that you're in good shape with the current leadership right now in helping bring this Immersion project back. And I'm excited to see who is going to be applying. For those who are in the New York City and the tri-state area, I look forward to meeting some of you who might be going to our roadshow when that does happen. So yeah, that's it. And I think that I want to give a shout out to Chris and Mark, who was in my batch 2016. We had the best time. And I look forward to hearing more about everyone's experiences, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Feel free to message me separately or on the chat on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dondi. Anybody else before we get into the actual program itself?
I'll say a quick couple words. So yeah, my name is Chris Lepinik. I am a public interest attorney based in Los Angeles. I'm originally from New York though. And I was, as Donnie mentioned, in batch 5 in 2016. I will say Donnie said that all you do during the immersion program is eat, but I will say there may be a little bit of drinking as well. So keep that in mind. And I'll just say, yeah, to sort of dovetail on what Donnie said, after the immersion program is great, but it's just the sort of life after is maybe even more powerful, I would say. Just briefly, I'll just mention that there was a FYLPRO alum from a different batch, Ryan Latada, who got married last summer in Kauai in Hawaii. And there was a decent, I knew Ryan from the Fulbright in the Philippines. So I actually knew him separately from FYLPRO. But there was a decent sized batch of FYLPRO alumni that came for the wedding. So it was a great reunion, a meeting of lots of FYLPRO alumni. And in particular, we were lucky to have sort of guidance of Mike the Healig, who is like basically the mayor of the island of Kauai, and showed us like a really good time on the island and all the good insider spots that people wouldn't know about. And so that's the beauty of FYLPRO in a lot of ways, that you grow your network of passionate, talented, intelligent Filipino Americans all over the country, from Guam to New York, basically. Well, that's Dondi's life, basically. Yeah, and you of course grow your network in the Philippines as well. And I guess the last thing that I'll sort of mention, what was I going to say? Oh, if people have any questions or concerns about if you're feeling a sort of way about certain current events in the Philippines, FYLPRO is nonpartisan, but I'm happy to answer any questions about that, because my batch was actually the first batch. So this batch, FYLPRO was originally founded by Ambassador Quisha, who was appointed by President Noynoy Benigno Aquino Jr. And my batch was the first batch to go while President Duterte was in power. And so we were at an interesting turning point in FYLPRO's history. And I am happy to answer any questions if people have concerns about the new administration. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Actually, speaking of Chris, do you want to go over, I'm going to go back to the deck and share this if you want to go over this.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, I'm a member of the selection committee, and so this year, we've thought through. It's similar to years past, but we've slightly modified the application process. But applications, as you all know, are now open. Applications need to be completed on the paper form website by September 5, and then. You also need to have 2 recommendation writers submit letters of recommendation on your behalf by the following Monday. So your application will not be considered unless you have 2 recommendation letters submitted as well. Let's see. There will be an interview that we will conduct with. We still are working through the details as to how many interviews we'll be doing. It kind of depends on the overall volume of applications that we get. But we definitely will interview folks before extending invitations. And we hope to complete the overall process by the end of September, basically. And so folks will know either way by that time. The immersion program itself is scheduled for the week of November 20th, which I believe is the same week as Thanksgiving. As Lizelle mentioned, the age range is now from 25 to 45, and there is an application processing fee of $20. And so the link to the paper form application is at that URL that you see on your screen, and you should get a confirmation email after you submit your form, your application to the recommendation letter website as well. But yeah, happy to answer any questions about logistics and time.
And then I don't know, Fred, Queer Fred, do you want to go over like some just overall high level view of just the days?
Yeah, sure. So as a couple of speakers mentioned earlier, that 1 week, you're not doing the same thing twice. So each day you're doing something completely different. So in our case, for the Arts and Culture Day, we actually went on a bamboo bike tour of Intramuros. So that was definitely a nice way to see the city. And it was interesting because we had an opportunity to go counterflowing in the streets of Manila. But anyways, somebody also mentioned earlier that you do get an opportunity to kind of rub elbows with a lot of captains of business and government. And that Community Exposure Day, we had it in Pampanga. So that was an AITA community which up until quite recently, actually, they did not have running water. So that was a far, it was a complete change of pace from being able to go to, Makati, Shangri-La, and things like that, being able to see the other side of the Philippines. And then the beauty of this immersion program is that the delegates get matched with somebody in the Philippines who does somewhat, something similar in their field in the Philippines. And that's somebody that's been doing that for a while. So you get an opportunity to be mentored and cultivate a relationship with that individual over there. And again, the whole time, there's definitely food involved. After hours, the drinking perhaps, but it's absolutely, something that, it's kind of difficult to explain how big of an event it is that's packed into such a short amount of time. But it's definitely, everything is kind of lined up. That's just a sample of what, we got to experience while we were there. But as an overall view of it, it's completely some different from day to day that you'll be experiencing. So again, it's definitely one trip to remember.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is just a sample, like back to back. The days are pretty packed. So we hope to like kind of spread that out a little bit this time around, but like that definitely does not take away on the impact it definitely had on all of us. And then just a couple of tips before we open up to questions. I would highly recommend requesting your recommendations early because you don't want that to be the thing that's holding up your application, because we will not consider any application is not complete without those 2 recommendation letters. So and you do have that week buffer after the initial application deadline closes, but definitely ask folks now. I know it's still summer, we're in that weird period now that people are going back to school, so be good to get that on people's radars. Another tip is just, make sure showcasing community involvement is not required, but encouraged. So be sure to mention that in the application, like what other things that you do to help the community, and community in this sense is pretty wide open in terms of what that definition is. And then I would say just lastly, just in general, and I think the alumni here will agree, don't get discouraged. If you don't get it and this round, please apply again. I did not get it the first time, but I got the second time. Others applied multiple times and, they ended up getting it. So definitely don't get discouraged. And I would say FYLPRO is not solely the program, the immersion program. FYLPRO is so much more than that. All the other initiatives that we've launched over the last couple of years. And then, FYLPRO is us. It's the network that is the most probably powerful thing about this organization. Yeah, and then I think that's it in terms of that part. Just a plug for membership before we open up to questions. We approved opening up membership last year, so you don't have to be an alumni anymore to be a FYLPRO member. So please consider joining and just supporting the org. And then just a couple last things. Any questions about immersion itself, you can email us there and we will get back to you. And then, yeah, so I will open up to questions now about anything and everything about the program.
Hi, Lizelle.
Hey, Michelle.
I have a quick question about references. So we're allowed to submit 2, is that correct?
I think it's required too. Yes.
Yeah, maximum of 2, like we couldn't upload 3.
The form doesn't allow that. I mean, Chris, tell me if I'm right. We're looking only for 2, right?
I think in theory, you can submit a 3rd. You just send the link to the 3 different people. But yeah, only 2 are required.
I see. Okay, so there's flexibility. We could provide a 3rd if we wanted to. do you have any guidance or preferences as to who those references should be? So, you know, current employer versus PhilAm community org involvement?
Chris, do you want to take that, or I can give a general answer what I would answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have a preference, really. I mean, I think as long as it reflects, as the recommendation writer can hit the points that are described in the description of the recommendation letters, then any person would be fine. Yeah, no preference to the other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would also add, like, you know, I think a strong recommendation letter is somebody that really knows your work versus like titles or anybody that doesn't quite know. So yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Okay, people have their hands raised. Oh, JP, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that
Yeah.
question. I think a very valid point. Some of the people that have had here in Illinois, some people have had the governor write them a letter of recommendation. Some people have had CEOs from the Philippines. At the end of the day, it's a whole package type situation. So not one thing on that letter of recommendation will sway us, because it's really all of we have metrics. I guess it's a good time to talk about how we're going to select it. So from the members and the alumni, we're going to select a few committees, and then we'll do a review with a, you know, with a do not disclose information, so nobody shares the information in that process. So I think the way that I did it when I applied, I was batch 2014, is that when I created my own application, I let it sit for a day, and then I went back to it, and I put myself in the shoes of the people that's gonna evaluate those and ask, is this really strong enough? You know, and at the end of the day, we've done so many of these. You could say we could see through people that might be, you know, didn't put a lot of effort into it, and those that actually took it seriously. So it's all about the whole package. So it's not just one thing. It's the whole thing.
JP, I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, it's like holistically the whole package, so not just one thing. Definitely. Thank you for bringing that up.
Can I just say really briefly that it's definitely more important to have someone that knows you well as opposed to someone that's high profile. So unless the governor is your BFF, I think it would actually be a negative factor if you submitted, if the governor submitted a recommendation that was like, I'm not really sure who this person is, but they seem like a nice person, you know, that would be a negative factor.
Yeah, I totally agree, but I don't know, maybe they are BFFs. We don't know, but like for sure. Okay, so I will see who's next. Sherry, did I say your name correctly? Yeah.
Yes, it's Sherry.
Sherry, okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having this information session. I'm really excited about the program. My question is more so about the legacy project. So in terms of the legacy project, when we're envisioning it, should it be targeted towards the PhilAm community, or, you know, should it be targeted towards something happening in the Philippines, or should it bridge? Like, what is the target audience for the project? And do you have any examples of previous legacy projects?
We have many samples of, and I think it also depends on you and your background. I can take for my example, right? So I'm a journalist by trade. So my legacy project is around a multimedia project around people's relationship to debt. So I did a whole podcast series interviewing. I started out with the PhilAm community, but I expanded that to interviewing Filipinos in the diaspora and what they thought of Utang ng Loob, right? So it could be something like that. I mean, JP, your legacy project was literally going back to the Philippines and building a business. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so let me tell you about my application. I work for Morgan Stanley. I'm a financial advisor. In my application, I actually wrote about my legacy project. And prior to me going to the Philippines, I moved there when I was 13, and I did not return for 26 years. So that's a long time. And so in my head, because I'm involved in the community here in Chicago, and then you hear the news, I wanted to do some financial, strengthening the financial audit of the spending and the government and the official spending. So I wrote about that, and And my legacy project right now, it's called Ambincion. Ambincion actually weaves textile. So it's completely opposite to what I envisioned. And the reason why I made the change is because my original legacy project, when I did the immersion, it was going to be impossible to launch and be effective. So when somebody suggested that Erie silk, raising Erie silk and weaving it in the Philippines might be effective, I did that, but then we do not have the technology in the Philippines to weave it the right way. So I adjusted, and now we're just weaving, and we're partners with Bio Foundation or Bio Clothing in the Philippines that actually they buy all of the ladies of the Gawad Kalinga Enchanted Farm that they've woven. So it's actually the way that that legacy project worked out. These are the ladies that always stayed home, potentially married to a farmer with some alcohol abuse, and now they are the breadwinner of the household. So that's the kind of legacy project that yours, certainly mine, evolved to.
Yeah, I would also add that like some legacy projects are bound to change anyway. So, I mean, I wouldn't put so much pressure in trying to like make it, you know, this is it, because oftentimes when people come, you propose one thing and you come back, it's completely different, you know, based off of like your experience. And then also partnering up with other alumni for a legacy project as well. So we've seen multiple examples of that. So I think it's really kind of what, you know, what are your interests, how that aligns, you know, with some of the things that you kind of want to do.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I guess I'm hoping this is a quicker question, but how many people generally apply for this?
I think from the last batch, Kufra, do you know? I think it was.
I thought it was 85.
85, was it 85?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we select 15 were selected out of that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Here being that this is the first in 3 years, we're expecting well into the double digits. So, you know, let's face it, it's going to be a little bit more competitive this year.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next on my list, Joseph.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having the space. I had 2 questions. The first question is related to one of the 3 key questions that is part of the application. Specifically, the second one, which I'll read for everyone if you don't have the page open. It says, what do you think are the main challenges facing Philippines? Enumerate no more than 3. Why do these issues matter to you? And what would you recommend the Philippine government as solutions for these issues? My question for this specific question is, do these challenges have to be related to kind of like our profession or expertise, or could it be something related to us more personally? And I was wondering what you were kind of looking for in this question. I mean, I'm not trying to cheat or anything, but I'm just trying to get a little bit of clarity.
They don't have to be related to your profession. Obviously, that's like a natural fit there. But I mean, if there's something that's very personal that stands out, I mean, we'd love to hear what you would say and answer that question. Yeah.
I see. Thank you. And then my second question was, if one were to make it to the point of the interview, what are you looking for during those interview sections? As you know, we already submitted our resume, our legacy project, answer those questions, as well as the rec letters. Like, what intangibles are you looking for during the interview process?
Chris, you want to take that? Take the other one too.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to be fair, I think this is the first time that we are sort of doing interviews for all of the top candidates, as opposed to, it was a lot more ad hoc in years past. And so to be frank, I think we still need to convene and sort of calibrate exactly what we are trying to get out of the interviews. You know, just overall, I think what we're looking for is sort of, we're trying to get at just how passionate and knowledgeable you are about the Filipino community, and your background in sort of working in the community, and also the potential for growth and continued involvement in issues that are important to the Filipino community. And sort of dovetailing on that, I think to get to your first question, to go back to your first question, I think what we're trying to see is how plugged in, how aware are you of issues facing the Philippines and the diaspora more generally. And so it doesn't necessarily have to do with your particular job or your particular personal background. If you just happen to be, and I'm not saying this is mandatory, but if you just happen to be following Filipino news on a regular basis, or just follow news that's relevant to the Filipino American community, and you could demonstrate that through that essay, I think that would be an effective answer.
I see. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next on my list is Tina.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry for my background noise. I'm actually driving right now, but I do have two questions, which I think might have already been answered. The first one was just kind of wondering if the sort of knowledge that you talk about, or our innate knowledge about it, is more geared towards the Philippines or the Phil-Am community here in the U.S. And I think it's probably answered like it's a mix of both, right? But you can maybe answer otherwise. But the second question I have is, if you've mentioned some metrics that are being used for judging the responses or the applications that are being submitted, are you able to share the metrics or like a rubric of the point system that you're using for choosing the final candidates?
I mean, I think we could talk about it more broadly. I mean, there are certain areas that, we want to make sure, people, like the class is represented and across not only geographically, age-wise, industry. So it's not all like one thing, right? We want to make sure that is a very diverse group, because I think, at least for my batch, that was for the most part the case, and that made a lot of difference. I mean, I would have not crossed paths with a lot of my fellow batchmates if it wasn't for this program, because I think we often get siloed on that end. But yeah, I mean, I think more broadly, we're looking at the entire, like what JP said, what Chris also said too. It's like the whole package, your application, your recommendation letters, your answers to the essay questions. I think that's all taken into account. I don't know if that answers your question. And then I forgot your first question, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, the first question was about whether it's more geared towards Philippine issues or Phil-Am issues. And the second one was whether you could share like the metrics or the rubric that's going to be used for scoring the applications. But thanks for your answer, Liz.
Yep.
Can I get that?
Yep, go for it.
Yeah, so this is JP again. When Ambassador Kush had started the program, there were two things that was mentioned for several years, which is, if you're a Filipino American, every time you went to an event, it was always the older generation, but he saw the need for the younger generation to participate. So when he said he started FYLPRO, he wanted to get some young leaders that could either had advocacies here in the US, hence why they encourage people to run for office, or continue the advocacies for Filipino causes here in the US. But also on the flip side of that, if people are in a position to invest in the Philippines, he also welcomed that. And honestly, I went on a trip July 2014, and then I saw him at a function here in Chicago. And what he said was, JP, when are you going to invest in the Philippines? So January 2015, I started the silk farm on Bención. So when you're catering your answer, write about what you're passionate about, because in those letters, when we evaluate them, that passion shows in what you talk about. And a lot of times as a reviewer, those carry a lot of weight along with the rest of your application. because if you saw the mission of FYLPRO, right? That's actually, if you cater your answers towards that mission of FYLPRO, and we'll see if it's actually you're passionate about it, it's the truth, then you stand a good chance of being selected, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I know we're running up against time. We could probably take one more question. We do have a board meeting after this, so want to also make sure that you know, this recording will be sent out to everyone that RSVP'd. I know some people RSVP'd late, so hopefully they'll be able to reference this. We'll also be scheduling a few more of these info sessions, both in person and virtual, in the region. So be on the lookout for that if you don't catch everything here. Melissa.
Hi, yes, yeah, hopefully my question will be really quick, but my question was a little bit more around logistics, and hopefully this is already on the website. But I was just wondering about costs. If you are selected, how much do you expect one person to spend on this trip?
Yeah, so the trip itself for the selected delegates is free. There might be some out-of-pocket costs in terms of transportation. So it's also dependent on the sponsorships that we're trying to secure now. So like, for example, in the past, our airline sponsor was PAL, Philippine Airlines. And depending where you are located in the country, you may not be near a PAL hub. So the cost of that going to the PAL hub and getting on that flight would be passed on to the delegate. So that would be out-of-pocket costs, as well as anything personal cost when you are in the Philippines. I'm trying to think if there's any, I would say those are the main costs that I can think of right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then I also want to add in terms of tips also, so feel free to reach out to the alumni, reach out directly to me, email the immersion@fylpro.org for any questions. We are happy to help. We want to make sure that, you know, you have all the tools you need to put in a very strong application. You know, anything like that, feel free to use the network. This is what we're here for, and, you know, always looking to continue to add to that. So we have about 6 minutes left. I don't know, JP, is there anything else? Am I missing Chris, rest of the committee here? Hey, Josh.
Hey, sorry for my lateness. I literally just got off work.
No worries, no worries. We're about to wrap up. We were just going over, you know, just the application tips, anything like that.
Okay, I'll just watch the recording later.
Yeah, no worries. If there's no other questions, we could wrap. Okay.
I have a question. I mean, you may have went over this, but what is our goal for number of applications?
As many as we can.
Okay, perfect.
We can get.
I like it.
Chris, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, everyone on this call, I encourage you to put in your application. Don't remember the deadline is September 5th. Please get those in. Ask for your recommendation letters as soon as you can. The buffer for that is September 12th to get them into us. And a completed application is not complete without those 2 recommendation letters.
Oh, Fred suggested we take a group photo.
Oh, okay. Okay, hold on.
Picture didn't happen, right?
No, it didn't happen if we don't.
This is our roll call too.
Yeah. You're doing it, right, Fred?
If you're able to turn on your cameras, please do so. Let me fix my hair real quick.
Look at Lucky and Anthony.
Greetings from the Bond Conference.
That's right.
I'm here. I'm there. I'm there too. So we
You're
are doing
hiding
it in
somewhere.
person.
Yeah, we haven't seen you. You're somewhere in one of the rooms here.
Oh yes. Where are you? Okay.
We're at the auditorium.
Oh no, I'm in the dorm. So
All right, here
when
we go.
go to Seattle, we have an in-person thing tomorrow on this. So yeah.
On 3, folks. 1. Oh, wait, hang on. Had a chat notification. 1, 2, 3. And let me get a backup just in case. Okay. On three, 1, 2, and please. Got it. Thanks, folks.
All right, thank you. Looking forward to
Thank you
seeing
so
everyone's
much.
applications.
Thanks everyone. Good luck
Thank
for
you
all
so much.
applications.
Bye.
All the best, everybody.